life path number, it's like knowing your sun sign in astrology. If you're only going to know one number, this is it. It comes from your date of birth, so it does not change, unlike some of the numbers that come from your name that can vacillate, right? If we change our name, all of those things. And yet this really is, to me, what you checked in to do. It is your life's purpose. It is what you're here to learn, to master, to evolve toward, to, it's never done just because it isn't, right? That's why it takes a lifetime to do this, because what we're here to do, I find, is going to be the most challenging thing for us to do. I mean, it's kind of the beautiful cosmic jokery of all of it. It's like, okay, you got this, but now we're going to give you some higher climbing walls in those areas, just to make it fun, just to make it interesting. If it were too easy, what's the point? So we've got that with the life path. So I always love to look at the optimal, right? What the alignment is. And I'm a real wordy, so I love words and I love keywords. Right? So the key words and key elements that we can keep coming back to. And then we're always going to be dealing with the oppositional pull. So, and that can show up as an overactive element to that theme or that keyword, or an underactive element. And then oftentimes, depending on if it shows up, where it shows up and how, it can be, a little mixture of that, depending on who you are and how you express it. So with that said, we have numbers 1 through 9 in numerology. And then we have some other numbers. The master numbers are the double digit, 11, 22, 33. Those are the ones that show up in your core profile. 44, any repeated number like that is considered a master number, but those are the ones who show up in your chart. So with that said, though, it's really nice to know just the basic core elements here. So how you calculate your life path number is this. And once again, little disclaimer, there are different ways of doing it. And yet I will demonstrate the way that I do it and then give you an alternative. So you've given me permission to use your birth date. So April, happy birthday, by the way, last month. Thank you. So April is a 4 because it is the 4th month. So it is a number 4. You're born on the 6th. You're going to make it very easy for us because that's a single digit number. Just a little sidebar, in numerology, we're always reducing. We're continuing to reduce to a 1-digit number. All right. So the 6th is already a 1-digit number. So that's 6. Now we're going to get into the hard math. Okay. All right. Are you ready out there? So the hard math here is 1995 is the year you were born. We're going to add that like a simple math problem. So 1 + 9 = 10, plus 9 = 19, plus 5 = 24. Now we have a double digit number. So we're going to continue to reduce. 2 + 4 = 6. So now we're going to take the 4, the 6, the 6, and we'll add those together, okay? Those 1-digit numbers. So 4 + 6 = 10, and 10 + 6 = 16. 1 + 6 = 7. So you are a 7 life path, all right? So just a little heads up. Oftentimes there are numerologists who, like Dan Millman, if anyone's familiar with his book, The Life You Were Born to Live, it's a great book, by the way. He adds what I call the long way, very, very official term. But he adds a long way, which would be 4 + 6 + 1 + 9 + 9 + 5. In this instance. So you can do that. The only thing that is going to be different about your result is the double digit number that you get prior to reducing it. As you get into numerology, those hold some keys and some nuances that are very powerful and valuable to know. But on the 101 level, all we really are concerned about is that final destination, that final number. And so for you, you are a 7.
I am. And what I'll just say that I thought was so cool when I finally learned my numerology, which was I mean, you were the first person I ever had a numerology reading with a couple of years ago. And my whole life, like from childhood, my favorite numbers have always been 7 and 3. 3 and 7, 37, 7 and 3. Those were always my favorite numbers. And it's a joke with my friends now because we see 37s everywhere. Everybody just sends each other photo 37, 37. And then I found out that I'm a life past 7, and then I have like one of my other numbers is 3, my soul something,
Yep, your
right?
expression number. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Like those are two of my main numbers. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I just always intuitively, as a kid, I was like, I love those numbers. And it's just funny how that happens.
I love you bringing that up as an example because this happens so often. I remember being somewhere one time at a food show, actually, and a guy was there. We were talking a little bit about numerology, and I did his life path, and it was in a 17, 8, and then 8.
Mm-hmm.
He was hilarious. He was Italian, so he literally was very flamboyant in that way. So he literally at that moment rips his shirt open in the middle of the food, the food trade show. He's like, "This has always been my favorite number,"
Oh
and
my God.
he had a 17, he had a necklace that said 17 on
Oh,
it around his neck right then. He's like, like you, he's like, I never had any idea why. So an 8 was something that he would gravitate toward. A lot of times people find that I had a friend who was a 19 /1 life path, and he said, oh my gosh, all my jerseys, my sports jerseys
mhm.
growing up were given to me. Like I didn't choose them, and they were always 19.
Mm,
So
yeah.
anyway, really
Yeah.
interesting.
Happens like that. Happens like that. All my jerseys were always 3, 7, or 10.
Isn't
Those
that,
are always the numbers. Yeah.
and
So
7, 8, 9, 10, right? You add 7 and 3 together, and that is 10.
yeah. Wow. I love it. It's so cool. It's so cool. So, okay. So I'm a life past 7. Can we go through I mean, obviously time constraints, but just the main bit for each number, just so people have something to go off of, and then, they can go in deeper.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you've done your life path number, if you're out there, and of course now you're going to be doing what your friends and your family and all of this. So here's the basic, oh my gosh, just brushstroke of what these numbers are. So the 1 is as a life path, you're who I would call the innovative, the creative entrepreneur, this innovator, right? The leader. So the 1, if we even think about it, we're looking at the numbers 1 through 9. 1 is Genesis. It is starts. It is self. It is ego, right? And so it is all about learning about how to stand on your own 2 feet. It's all about all the I words, I find: independence, individuality, initiation, all the doing. It is the fail forward, learning about self-confidence. And these are kind of these naturally entrepreneurial people. The kind of shadow side is lack of self-confidence and you wanting kind of to be belligerently disruptive rather than, having a hard time listening to others and taking constructive criticism and preparing to do what they're going to do. So that's the 1. The 2 is just really the opposite of the 1. The 2 is the more feminine, diplomatic. The 2 is the intuitive diplomat, all about learning the power of patience, everyone's favorite, right? And patience, but diplomacy, mediation. These people are very relationship focused, highly, and I can't stress this enough, highly intuitive and emotionally sensitive. They're very concerned about what everyone thinks. If there's one suggestion for the 2, it's to read the 4 agreements and tack up the page that says don't take things personally, right? So that is the 2, learning how not to be so sensitive, and really learning the overall message for the 2 is learning how not to be taken advantage of by others, how to have strong, healthy individuation and boundaries. So the 3, the creative communicator, meant to be in the spotlight. These people are all about creative self-expression and emotional sensitivity. In numerology, the number of joy, optimism, they're ever curious, always. They're the ones who do a lot of different things in their lives, but are attempting to put it all together and bring something out into the world that will inspire, uplift, motivate. The flip side to the 3 is they can be really superficial, very scattered, and very depressive. Even if we think about, I always like to use the example just briefly of someone like Frida Kahlo, who was a 3, and all of her art and her expression came from pain. So 3s are dealing with a lot of emotional trauma and a lot of emotional pain underneath it all. I always say the mantra for the 3 is, when you're laughing, you're learning. Okay, so the 4 is the number of stability, the number of processes. I call the 4 the hardworking systems builder. The key words here are everything earth oriented, very grounded, very foundational energy. The worker bee, the number of limitation in numerology, and also the number of health, learning to be flexible, because even if you look at the 4, it looks like a box or a chair, right? Learning how to think outside the box, because the 4 often is an inside the box, it's this or that, it's black or white, it's right or wrong sort of thinker, learning how to be a little bit more flexible there. So the 5 is the sensuous freedom seeker. These are the fun, fearless, adventurous. They're all about the experience with the capital E. They are the gregarious. I call these people, oh my gosh, they're the ADHD experience. They live without a filter, sometimes literally so. A lot of 5s I know are honestly diagnosed with ADHD. And do have, that does show up in your numbers, but also, physically, for every number can have something in that that shows up in that way, is what I'm trying to say. So these people are natural salesperson people, very versatile, incredibly flexible. They're catalysts. They are always kind of catalyzing situations and things, and they are the ones who are, there's never back in the day for the 5. Leave that to the 4. But the 5s are always forward thinking. So their struggle has to do with excess, addictions, self-absorption, or a constant focus on how it feels all the time. They really seek these highs, this stimulation, and they're really looking at the ultimate for the 5 is freedom through self-discipline, or the constructive use of freedom. All right. So the 6 is the nurturing visionary. The 6, even if you look at it like a little pregnant belly, right? And this is the number of home, family, the domestic world in that way. They have different tribute. Each number is very complex and beautifully intricate, but the 6 to me, it's about, the key words are home, duty, service, self-sacrifice, responsibility is a key player. They're also very much into fairness, justice, that sort of thing. And they're also very into aesthetic beauty. You can often find these people and highly creative. They're visionaries. They can see answers where other people can't even see questions to be asked. The flip side of these people, oh my gosh, if there's ever a control freak, this is one. And perfectionists, very idealistic. So learning how to accept the perfection of the imperfection of everything. So the 7 is the analyst and the spiritual seeker. So the 7 of all the numbers is, to me, living the most internalized, soul-based journey. So you can kind of I always look at the other numbers even more rigorously for a 7 life path to see how it's going to show up for them, because mostly the 7 is totally on a different wavelength. They are totally the heady intellect. And yet the kicker here, the lifelong journey, is to learn that heady, intellectual, analytical, show me the data side, and then also to begin to observe and integrate and build on the intuitive. I like to think of it as the Einstein sort of thing, because he was so much into, again, all of the physics, everything else, but everything is energy. He talks about love as an actual thing, like as an entity, as an energetic entity. So he was able to, he was a 6, by the way. He wasn't a 7, but I like to use that as an example of the optimal of the 7, which is learning how to bring that together as a fountain of wisdom, right? The 7 is learning trust and openness and how to connect emotionally, because the 7 is also quite a skeptic, healthily so usually, and a perfectionist in a different way. The perfection for the 7 is more about the perfection of your thinking and the way you execute, rather than the perfectionism of the 6, which is more about how everyone's behaving. Right? So there's, and you've got a little smidgen of both here. So we're probably speaking your language right about now. And again, I say this with a big hug, with a warm hug. And then the 8 is the money number. Everyone will who knows anything about numerology thinks of it as the money number. But to me, it's got so much more depth and breadth. It is a power number. So the keywords are, it's the financial, it's the money manifester, it's the CEO, it's that organizing management energy, and it's about abundance. So it's money, power, control, authority, and just understand that it is a pretty intense ride, because this person is learning how to manifest in the material world. First of all, that comes with personal power and empowerment, right? And then it exceeds or extends into money and becoming financially viable, which then gets you into the even higher octave of what will I do for money? What won't I? What does this mean? How do I use this to empower myself? And the ultimate 8 is a powerful influencer. They're a connector. They're the ones who are the movers and shakers and making things happen in the world. And it's funny, if you're out there and you're like, this isn't anything like me. I hate money and I'm poor and I'm all this. Well, yes, you are. You're an 8, because that's also part of this pathway. 8s, we all have issues with money, and yet 8s have a real love-hate relationship with money, usually, that has a lot of more issues around their concepts around money. So if you're out there, just hi, hi, you 8s out there. And then we've got the 9s. The 9s, then we're finalizing our scope here of numbers in numerology. And if the 1 is ego, self, all of those individual sort of initiating independent energies. The 9 is the bookend to that. So it's about universal wisdom. It's the compassionate humanitarian, very quirky, incredibly creative. These people are beautiful weirdos, and I mean that with the utmost respect. And they're here to do what they're doing because they can't not do it, in terms of following their heart, giving to the greater good. And this can show up in so many different ways. And I'll give you a couple examples just to kind of put this energy in a blender for you 9s, which is Mother Teresa, Gandhi, Greta Thunberg. There are all these, but they're kind of belligerent, right? I mean, they're like, this is my passion, and I am, really going for it. And there's also a creative vortex that goes here with the creators like Prince, Elvis Presley, Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, David Byrne of the Talking Heads, Anthony Hopkins, all of these people who really have this incredible otherworldly presence, right, in terms of their creativity. And they've got so many different facets and conduits. Oftentimes these people are, are actors, they're painters, they're musicians, they're, I mean, all of it, right? And they're these tsunamis, tsunamis of energy.